What's up, band geeks? Alright, these are the answers to all of your questions about the E-flat clarinet. And I do want to give a little bit of a disclaimer before I start this video. So many of the questions that you asked have a fast answer of it depends, but I'm going to try to give you the best information that I can possibly give you. So let's just dive right in. I should have put my clarinet together before starting this video. Quick start clarinet. Your videos are hilarious. Thank you. Okay, so your questions. What is different about the air, embouchure, tongue position, etc. on E-flat versus B-flat clarinet? Alright, there's a bunch of questions here, so I'm just going to address them one by one. Let's start with tongue position and embouchure, because so E-flat clarinet has a mouthpiece that's smaller and narrower than a B-flat clarinet. Let me get you some comparisons. This is a normal B-flat clarinet mouthpiece. I need to clean it. This is a E-flat clarinet mouthpiece. I probably also need to clean it. So as you can see, the mouthpiece is a lot smaller, and a lot of times the rails are a little bit more narrow than the B-flat clarinet mouthpiece. So in general, I find that I need my embouchure to be a lot tighter than I would use on a B-flat clarinet. So corners super in, a little bit less lip on the bottom teeth, like sort of roll it forward, kind of like if you were playing altissimo notes on a B-flat clarinet where you use a little less lip and a really, really flat chin. You need that pretty much all the time on E-flat clarinet. And air support generally stays the same, but you need sort of a more advanced level of control. It's really easy to play really loud on E-flat clarinet. It's harder to play softer, and when I switch from B-flat to E-flat clarinet, I find that I need a lot more control in my embouchure in order to make the dynamics come out. So air support needs to just be super, super controlled. Your tongue position and throat position takes some getting used to, just in terms of voicing things, like where something would normally be really open in like your tongue position low and your throat position open, and maybe like the lower notes of the B-flat clarinet, it's going to not be as open on the E-flat clarinet, if that makes any sense. Your second question is common mistakes people make when beginning E-flat clarinet. I wouldn't say that there are common mistakes. I would say that there is an adjustment period. It's really easy to play the altissimos out of tune because they sound a lot higher to the ear than you're used to hearing. So just some general adjustments, practicing pretty much just over the whole range with a tuner just to find out where your instrument is and what you need your mouth to be doing in order to achieve a sound that is not only quality but in tune as well. It also takes a lot of time to get used to where the fingers fall, because as you can see, this is E-flat, this is the E-flat clarinet. It's only one joint in the middle usually, whereas B-flat clarinet, this is just the right hand. You can tell that the fingers are a lot closer together over here, like the rings down here are a lot closer together on this instrument. So just finding out, like getting used to where your pinkies go and the trill keys, just getting used to where your fingers fall on the instrument can be a little bit unnerving at first. It feels like you're playing like a tiny, tiny, tiny little clarinet, which you are. And then when you go back to playing B-flat clarinet, it feels enormous. So there is an adjustment period, but I wouldn't say that there are mistakes, so to speak. And you also asked what is the best way to make a smooth transition from B-flat to E-flat? There's not a whole lot of preparation you can do on the B-flat clarinet to get you prepared for the beast that this is. I'm going to start putting it together too. Also, I just think that this is funny. This is a normal B-flat clarinet barrel. This is the E-flat clarinet barrel. I just think it's adorable. This thing is like a chihuahua. It's tiny, but it's fierce. Even though it's in the same family, this is going to feel like a completely different instrument in a really unnerving way. But the best way to get used to it is just to spend a lot of time on it with a tuner. Music is life. I like that username. All right, so your question is, what do people hate less, E-flat clarinet or piccolo? I like this question. I think it's a personal preference. I think that people who like piccolo like bleeding from the ears, and people who like E-flat clarinet just like bleeding from the eyes. It's personal preference, really. Juan Jimenez or Jimenez. I'm always going to be really questioning how to pronounce your name, but you comment on all my videos. Thank you for being an awesome subscriber. Good beginner songs to play on E-flat clarinet. All right. Any song that you can play on B-flat clarinet is a great song to start on E-flat clarinet. I would start with easier repertoire. I wouldn't jump right into the Mozart Clarinet Concerto. I'd maybe do... Where'd my ligature go? Oh. An easier etude on E-flat clarinet. And then just move up from there. The next question is, how tall is the E-flat clarinet? Including the mouthpiece, about 20 inches tall. Yeah, between 19 and 20 inches tall. B-flat clarinet is about 27 inches tall. If you want to just see them visually, this is B-flat clarinet. This is E-flat clarinet. Bell size. I've already said before that the second, the middle piece is all one joint. As B-flat clarinet, it's broken up right here into two separate joints. The middle of the B-flat clarinet, or the middle of the E-flat clarinet is generally one piece. Barrel size, adorbs, and mouthpiece size. The mouthpiece is a lot shorter. However, actually, this leads into one of my next questions. You can see, well, no you can't. You can't really see. Even though the mouthpieces are drastically different, the rails in this like square cutout is really a lot closer than we think. B-flat clarinet is obviously a little bit longer, but in terms of size, the tips are pretty close. Pretty close. Okay, Aaron, Ron. Is it worth playing as a person in high school? Absolutely. That's when I started playing E-flat clarinet. It's not necessary. If you want to go into music, it's not necessary, but it's really good experience. The experience that you get on this, like once you go back to B-flat clarinet, it's a breeze. But yeah, the experience that you can get on this is invaluable, in my personal opinion. And Ron, you also asked which brand that I prefer. I actually, this is one of those questions where it depends. For me, I'm a buffet girl all around. I think they make really quality instruments. Jacob. The Clark Phobes pieces I can't speak on because I don't have experience with them. However, I do know people who have experience with the Clark Phobes pieces. Now, what I have heard is the Clark Phobes mouthpiece, barrel, and extension work really well together. For those of you who don't know what the extension is, it's a piece that goes in between the last joint and the bell, and it looks like a barrel with like a hole cut out, basically. And it doesn't make the pitch go any lower. The reason why they do this is because it makes the E-flat clarinet sound darker, or it stabilizes pitch more. I think the best way to find out if the Clark Phobes extension is worth it is to find a retailer that will let you try it. Because these little pieces, these little extensions run up to, $200 and above. That's a lot to spend on something that may or may not help you in the long run. Some people think, it depends on what kind of player you are. Like, I can see if you're playing a lot of musicals, it would make sense, but generally E flat clarinet is like the use of it in orchestra is to play the really high shrill passages. And I don't think it would make much a difference up in that register. But again, that's just speculation. And the people that I've talked to who have tried the pieces, again, they have nothing bad to say. I just personally can't speak from experience because it really depends on the clarinet that you have, and it really depends on the kind of player you are, what kind of air support you have. So it's definitely a case by case, person by person basis. The best thing to do is just to try it and see how it works for you. Try it with a tuner, try it with your mouthpiece and your reed and your setup so that you're comfortable with it, so that when you switch out the variable, which is adding the extension, you are able to tell, what kind of difference it makes. All right, so E flat clarinet reeds to B flat clarinet reeds that have been cut down. This is your standard B flat clarinet reed. This is your standard E flat clarinet reed. These are both Van Dorens. I believe this is a V12 Van Doren. This is just normal blue box E flat. So what you can do is, like, if I put them kind of together, okay, so you're not going to be able to see this, but I can see it. No, it doesn't at all. It has the same like tip, basically, but it's narrower on the sides. So I find that E flat clarinet reeds that were made for E flat just generally work better, and I have to play a half a size up anyway. Like, I play on 4s generally for B flat clarinet, 4.5s for E flat clarinet, because I just find that the tone quality is better and the high notes come out a lot easier than using the reed that I'm used to. You can definitely just chop a B flat clarinet reed so that it fits on the mouthpiece. Like there's space in between here. Like, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. But you can chop it. If your E flat clarinet mouthpiece is a little bit wider and can support a B flat clarinet reed, you can always get a reed clipper and clip the top so that it becomes essentially a harder reed. I've played on both a chopped B flat reed and a standard E flat reed, and I just have found that it's more comfortable playing on an E flat reed because it's like specifically made for the instrument. Clarinet players are neurotic. That's like what we do. Like, we get a box of reeds and like 7 of them suck, 3 of them are okay, and then we just work on them and play on them and break them in, and they might then work, they might not. It makes us crazy. Just try everything. It's kind of like how whatever reed brand you play on, you probably went through multiple different reed brands to find yours. Like, there are Rico reeds, there are like so many different kinds of Van Dorens. There's blue box, there's V12, there's like the white ones, like they come in a white box, like the White Masters. There are like thin cut ones, there's French cut ones, there's all these different types of reeds out there that, like, once you open up the reed like Pandora box, it can be overwhelming. So, just like, if you have an opportunity to try a different type of reed, try it. And you also asked me, so I think it's Bakun, that makes a barrel with an actual reed cutout so that you can use a B flat reed flat against it, and like there's not this thing. That's fine. That's fine too. If it works, it works. I think the difference is just for convenience sake. You can use a B flat reed and go seamlessly in between, but do you really want to spend that much money on a barrel with a reed cutout when you could just spend less money on a box of E flat clarinet reeds? But this is the E flat clarinet, and like, I find that I do need a harder reed. So it's a lot of words for me to tell you. I don't know. What I will say is that, have you ever had a reed that plays really, really well, and then there's like the tiniest little minuscule chip in it, and then all of a sudden it's awful? That can be what it's like if you're using, a different reed. Like, the tiniest minuscule difference can make a huge change in the overall sound of the clarinet. So if you're becoming, you know, a really serious E flat clarinet player, I would just try everything you possibly can. Nothing is gonna make this sound like a velvety, beautiful B flat clarinet. This is a whole other class of clarinet. It is a beast. I'm gonna talk more about like the sound of it later, and what it's really kind of used for. It's all a matter of personal preference. Gianna. All right, Gianna. Good options for students. There is no good option. There's no student model, let's say, for an E flat clarinet. I know when I started, like, I was a pretty good clarinet player as a high schooler. Not to toot my own horn, but when I had to play E flat clarinet, it was a huge leap in the not only what was expected of me, but what I expected of the instrument. It was really a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. And because you need such a tight, strong embouchure to play the instrument well, especially in the higher range, which is mostly what it's used for, it's really for advanced players. That's not to say that a beginner can't also start on E flat clarinet. It's just it's such a big change in embouchure and air control that someone, I feel, really needs to have a good understanding of how to manipulate sounds on the B flat clarinet before switching over to E flat clarinet. That being said, you asked how to get started, and the answer is to simply start. Get an E flat clarinet, get used to it by playing some easy songs and etudes, and then move up gradually from there. Yeah, E flat clarinet is hard for even some of the most advanced B flat clarinet players, so they don't really make filming a video. They don't really make models that are appropriate for students because like the instrument itself, like the tendencies of this instrument is not appropriate for anybody. Uke Can 2. I like that username a lot. So I've already kind of been over this, but brand, if you know anything about me, even just from this video, what brand do you think I prefer? Buffet. The reeds that I use are typically Van Doren size 4 that I cut down to be sort of like a soft version of a 4.5, or Van Doren 4.5s. They can be hard to find. The case is literally the one that it came with. And it's not like bass clarinet where it's helpful to have a BAM case. So I have a BAM case for my bass clarinet. And that's because bass clarinet is so heavy that a really light case can make a huge difference. So you're not lugging around like 50 pounds of case plus your bass clarinet. But E-flat clarinet is so small, like it literally fits in my tote bag. So when I'm walking to rehearsal, I just throw my music and my E-flat clarinet in my tote bag, and I can walk around with my tote bag. I live in an area where there's a lot of tote bags going around. The case isn't hugely important, I think, for E-flat clarinet. But, you know, there are a lot more serious E-flat clarinet players than I am. Like, I only play E-flat clarinet rarely and in really specific situations. Is E-flat clarinet music harder? Yeah. You know, I think that the superpower for clarinets is playing really, really softly. We are blessed with the ability to play super, super soft, softer than any wind, softer than any brass. Come at me, oboes. The superpower to E-flat clarinet is playing really, really high and really, really loud. When you blow air through this thing in the altissimo register, it just cuts through the orchestra, unless you're in unison with the piccolo, and it's either really good or really bad. You will either bleed from the ears or you'll bleed from the eyes, but in one way or another, you will spontaneously combust. It's really not that bad. So composers like to make the most of the high shrill notes that come out of E-flat clarinet. A lot of B-flat clarinet parts that, you know, I mean, like in Shostakovich, the winds have a ton of 16th notes, and it can be treacherous playing a ton of 16th notes in high altissimo notes. So it's put into the E-flat clarinet part, so you still get those high notes, but it's a little bit easier in dexterity. Otherwise, we just get thrown a whole bunch of altissimo notes and it doesn't really make anything easier. We just play the really, really high notes. Or shit like this. In this Schoenberg piece that I'm playing, which I'm doing like pretty much a whole video on like the process of how I prepared for this. That's going to come out a little bit later. Where is the passage? So, right here, right where this finger is, I'm trying to like look. This is a high A. I had to try a number of different fingerings. I mean, it is fortissimo and it is in unison with the strings, but honestly, all I can hear is myself, and it's supposed to be loud. It's supposed to be shrill. It's supposed to be, you know, up there. If Schoenberg didn't want it up there, he wouldn't have written a high A for E flat clarinet, you know. So oftentimes, almost everything we have is altissimo. I'll just show you the first page of the Schoenberg. I don't know why it's blue, but almost every note, or, you know, 90% of the notes that you see on this page are altissimo. And that's not just on the first page. It's on most pages. It's a little rough. But no, I mean, easy is also kind of objective too, because like what's easy for some people might not be easy for other people. But also if you practice, things go from hard to less hard. E flat clarinet, you're getting into treacherous musical territory, which is why I only play it sparingly. I also live in an apartment with neighbors up there and over there and across, you know, like the apartments are really close together, and it's I try not to practice for very long because I know that living next to an E flat clarinet player, I can't even imagine. That's all I've got for E flat clarinet. If you didn't make it in time to ask a question about E flat clarinet, or if I didn't answer your question in a way that you were satisfied with, please do not hesitate to tear me apart in the comments below, or to just ask your question and maybe clarify some things. And I am really good at responding to the clarinet section. I'm really good at responding to the comment section. It might take me a couple of days, but all of my comments that I respond to are like go pretty in depth. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed learning about the E flat clarinet. Go practice!